In the previous Top 10 video, we got to show you the top 10 best bosses in all the games in the Blaster Master series. Now, it's time to look at the other side of that coin. When you're about to finish a level, you expect there to be an epic boss fight, big creature, or some challenging foe blocking your way to victory. Well, sometimes the bosses in these games are a letdown. Whether the fight is horribly annoying, or the graphics are bad, or in some cases the boss is so difficult you just want to rage quit. Whatever the case may be, on today's list we're going to be exploring the top 10 worst bosses in the Blaster Master series. Number 10. It should be pretty well known at this point that the boss fights in Blaster Master 2 are pretty bad. Like, all of them. They are just uninspired, and the game devs were either too lazy or too pressed for time. They just stopped making new bosses and began recycling the same boss fights later in the game. Let's see what we have here. The worm, the bee, some fish. These machines that make no sense. But the one who's taking the spot on this list is going to be the spinning ball guy. Each stage has two bosses to fight, which are usually very similar. So here in stage 4 we have not one, but two of these spinny boss guys. The first one at least has guns around it and shoots at you. The second one is so lame it just spins around the room and periodically charges at you. He's also off the screen most of the fight, and if you go looking for him, well then he'll just charge you and you'll get hit. I'm not saying the boss fight is hard, but it's definitely a dull fight for a stage boss to say the least. Number 9. Blaster Master on the NES. How dare I talk bad about this game? Well, I won't really. It's a great game with great bosses as well. There's just one small thing I'd like to mention here. The boss fight Hard Shell, found in Area 5, is the most difficult and annoying boss fight in the entire game. Now, I'm not saying it's on the worst of list because he's a bad boss encounter or broken or anything like that. It's more like, man, this guy is the worst. The fight takes place over 3 phases. First phase, he's just shooting out a few bubbles out of his mouth. No problem. After some damage, he goes into phase 2, where the bubbles get a little more intense and harder to dodge. By phase 3, this guy is shooting out a constant stream of bubbles. The fight is so stressful, you have to just try and dodge all these bubbles and somehow get up in there and shoot him. The spot on this guy where he actually takes damage is so minuscule. It's like right up between his little purple mustache. Anywhere else and he won't take damage. Not to mention that you're probably going to take a few hits by the time you get to this point. And in Blaster Master for NES, every time you get hit, your gun power goes down. So if you get hit too much and lose too much gun power, you'll be left with this tiny little pea shooter and can't even reach him. Forcing you to get right up in his face to take the shot. Not a horrible boss, but definitely the most stressful in the game. Number 8. Blaster Master Zero came out in 2017 and was an amazing remake of the original NES game. They incorporated the retro-style graphics, added so much to the story, and made some incredible levels and bosses. Some bosses were merely reimaginings of older Blaster Master bosses, while some were new and original for this game only. Most of them were very neat and imaginative. The ice stage here, however, this was not the case in my opinion. As I've said before, every stage in Blaster Master Zero has a main boss you have to kill, and 2 optional bosses which dropped an upgrade of some sort if you chose to kill that boss. So I can't be too mad at this boss, for it is a side optional boss. My problem with this boss fight is it serves no challenge at all and is tedious and annoying. The room is set up like a maze, which makes it hard to get to the boss. He sends out these missiles that will never hit you as long as you keep walking. You simply walk towards him, shoot him a few times until he goes back into his shell, rinse and repeat. Halfway through the fight, the boss turns the floor of the room into ice. So you basically do the same thing you've been doing, now it's just more aggravating sliding all over the ice while doing it. 7. Similar to the hard shell boss I spoke about a few minutes ago, the next boss isn't horrible in a bad way, just an extremely stressful and difficult fight. The boss comes from the handheld version of Blastmaster, called Blastmaster Enemy Below on the Game Boy Color. The boss in question here is the final boss of the game, the Amoeba. This is one of the hardest bosses in all of the Blastmaster series. It took us multiple, like dozens of tries to defeat this boss. So let's examine exactly what's going on here. The boss, as you can see, takes up about 2/3 of the screen, giving you little time to react, and no room to move even if you could react to those attacks. There are 5 sections to the Amoeba boss. There are 2 smaller ones on the bottom, 2 medium-sized ones on the top, and a single larger section in the top middle. You can't even hit the larger one yet, so don't worry about it. Just manage to dodge the other smaller Amoeba things he's constantly shooting out at you. Each of the other 4 sections will alternate shooting out a laser at you. You can tell which ones are shooting a laser because, well, they're shooting a laser, obviously, and also the section wiggles around a lot. Only the ones that are shooting at you, hence the ones shaking, can be damaged. So only one can be damaged at a time, while the other 3 just remain momentarily dormant. They do switch on and off rather quickly though, so you do have to be on your toes during this fight. So finally when you destroy all 4 of the shooting lasers, the boss starts exploding, and you think you've won. Ha ha! Nope. The 5th one drops the rest of them and comes alive. This section of the Amoeba now abruptly shifts left and right, shooting lasers at you the entire time, while the smaller Amoeba sections, 2 at a time, appear and charge after you. Pro tip, hold in the strafe button and move left to right in sync with the boss. This is your only hope of surviving this. By the way, if you fail and die, you have about 10 to 12 minutes of work to get back to where you were and try again. This is a password game, so you only get 1 life. 1 try and it's back to wherever the password starts you off from. Number 6. Coming at number 6 is a boss from the Bomberman game they decided to call Blastmaster Boy. The game itself is not that bad for a handheld game, and some of the bosses are really interesting, but not all of them. Some of them are downright frustrating. This brings us to the boss in stage 5-4. Some creature with his tongue sticking out just sits in the middle of the screen and never moves. Instead, he has these 3 tentacle-type arms swinging around him the entire fight. It's extremely hard to get in close to bomb him, and if you're out of directional bombs or any other special bomb attacks, this is pretty much your last option. No problem, you can simply just get in the middle and follow the arms counterclockwise and bomb when you can. Well, that's easier said than done, because Jason walks kinda slow and the arms quickly catch up to you. After closer inspections, it seems like they slow down and speed up every once in a while. So you're supposed to go in while it's slow, get a few hits and get back out before it speeds up. The problem is, you get greedy and just want to bomb more than you should. The only safe spot seems to be here in the corner of the room, but one little screw up and you're going to panic and lose all your health. Not to mention, when the boss's arm does hit you, it sends you flying a few steps, which will most likely get you hit, causing a chain reaction and getting yourself stuck in there. Definitely a tedious and aggravating boss fight. Number 5. Once again, we're coming back to Blastmaster Zero, and surprisingly, it's the same level as well. Area 6, the ice level. We previously mentioned the remote blaster boss, and how annoying that fight was with running all over the place and spending half the fight slipping around on ice. Well now, you can spend the whole fight slipping on ice trying to dodge things. For this fight, called Ancient Freeze, you need to destroy each and every one of these red and blue orbs along the perimeter of the wall. Of course they open and close and are immune to attacks unless they are open. During the entire encounter, they shoot out the stream of red lasers. These lasers don't actually harm you, but if you walk across the stream of laser, they are alerted and shoot out a larger blue laser, which will cause damage if you get hit by it. Not too bad, but don't forget these 4 spiky things are chasing after you the whole time also. You can kill them, sure, but if you kill all 4, they just respawn, you gotta do it all over again. So don't even bother. But what about the fire gun, you say? It can melt ice. Sure, you're right, but go ahead. Shortly after you do that, the boss just refreezes the room anyway. So basically, there's no cheat in the system. You might as well not melt the floor and not kill the 4 guys spinning around the room. Just try your best to dodge all the lasers and enemies while slipping and sliding throughout the level, destroying every orb in the room one by one till it's finally over. The boss isn't particularly difficult, it's just underwhelming as a stage boss. This isn't an optional boss you can skip, this is actually the stage boss level 6. And it just feels kinda lame. Number 4. In case I didn't exactly say it, I do like when the boss is something huge, a large, well-drawn spite, or multi-sectional boss, or just something epic. Well, in Blaster Master 02, the boss is literally the entire planet. Boy, you can't get much bigger than that, I suppose, for a boss fight. So what's the problem then, and why is it on this worst of list? Well, I like the concept here, I guess, but the boss fight itself is just horribly lacking. This is Planetary G, the boss of Area G and the final boss of the game. Unless you've done enough to unlock the secret planet, that is. So picture this as the last boss of the game as far as you know. So how's the final fight of the game go? Well, basically, you just jump up and down the boss. Yeah, that's it. You can't even actually shoot the boss. Just shoot some ads that annoy you the whole entire fight. The only way this boss takes damage is when you fall from a high enough height and land on it. As a final boss fight of a game, that is lame. All you gotta do is hover up and fall down onto the boss. If you run out of hover though, you can use the floating platforms to gain some height. But the mobs on the screen constantly drop SP to refill it anyways, as well as health. So the boss fight isn't challenging at all, it's just as I said, kinda lame. Just jump up and down and kill the final boss of the game. A little ways through the fight, he starts leaving the screen, scrolling out of the left and scrolling back in towards the right. You can't simply jump and land now, you must time it where his eyes are on the screen. Don't miss it though, because he'll heal himself every time he comes back around the screen. Number 3. We'll finally get into the top 3 now. Be prepared to see some horrible boss fights here. For the third spot, we're returning to the Blaster Master Boy on Game Boy. This is the stage boss directly after the previous Blaster Master Boy boss. This one occurs in stage 6-2. When you first enter the room, it's just a face sitting there floating around on the screen. No problem, just one little face floating around. But as soon as you step into the large area he's in, shit starts to hit the fan. All these blocks are coming out from the walls towards where you are. Not only do the blocks trap you and hinder your movement, they also do damage. Not to mention the boss is chasing you the whole time and is apparently unaffected by these blocks. The boss fight is just a mess. It's impossible to dodge all these blocks and dodge the boss and try to land a few attacks on the boss. It's just a complete disaster and gives me a headache just looking at the footage. So how do we even beat him? Well, there's a pretty shameful trick you can use to beat him without even entering this horrible room. You can just chill here in the corner where it's safe and use directional bombs to kill him without even getting hit. Yeah, it takes a bit of time, but the hell with going into that disaster of a room and trying to weave in and out of those blocks. Number 2. Throughout Blaster Master 02, you meet characters along the way. Most of them are hostile and you fight them first, but then soon they become your friends and help you. Gunbei, Count, and Stein are all people that become friendly with you. One stubborn character that you keep running into is this guy Leibniz, flying his stupid ship called Garuda. Now the fights with Leibniz that take place while you're playing as Jason aren't that bad. But the problem is when you fight Leibniz inside his ship Garuda while playing as Sophia. These fights are nothing short of absolute frustration. The problem is, and one of my pet peeves is, he's never on the damn screen. The ship's just flying all over the place and you can't ever hit it. The boss has 4 basic attacks. The first, he flies around and drops these landmine type things, but we're in the air so I guess they're air mines. Don't touch the mines or you'll take damage, and also don't bother shooting them or they'll shoot back at you. The second attack, he zooms by the top of the screen and casts these homing missiles at you. You have to be quick to dodge these. Third, he zooms across the bottom of the screen directly at you. If you're quick enough here, you can get a shot or two in while he's zooming by. The fourth attack is your best chance to deal damage. He casually glides in and fires a set of 3 electric shots at you. The problem is, he has a shield sometimes, while other times he doesn't. I honestly don't know what causes the shield to go away or come back, but the fact is he's never on the dang screen. And when he is on the screen, he's probably shielded up anyway, making this an extremely annoying and time-consuming fight. Oh, before I forget to tell you, you actually have to fight this guy not once, but twice throughout the game. And you don't even get the satisfaction of actually killing him. He just always gets away. Ugh. The heck with Lebanese and Garuda. Number 1. Number 1 worst boss ever in the Blastmaster series is... Well, I'm cheating here a little bit. It's actually a lot of bosses. In fact, the number 1 worst boss in the Blastmaster series is every boss in the Blastmaster Blasting Again. Yeah, I said it. The worst game in the series also brought the worst bosses in the series. Now before we see the montage of crap that is Blastmaster Blasting Again, I do think the idea of a section of the boss having its own health bar is kinda neat. But honestly, can you tell what part of the boss it is? Or what's going on? Probably not. I mean, they're all just a bunch of blurry messes of polygons on a dark brown muddy background. There are 4 levels in the game, each of which are repeat for a total of 8 levels. Let's do a quick rundown here of the bosses, shall we? First one is a Bumblebee ship. Can you tell what's going on here? Don't think so. Second one you fight is Jason. I mean, this thing should speak for itself. Just look at it. If that ain't a pathetic design... This boss is just a copy of Photophage from the original Blastmaster game. And yet somehow, over 10 years later, it's still a worse boss fight. Well done. The next one is my personal favorite, and is seen in the thumbnail. I call this fight the chicken with his head cut off boss fight. I mean, all the thing does is run around like a lunatic on the outside of the platform. Next boss... Oh, we're already cycling the boss from stage 1. Just now the ground is black and blue instead of a dirt color. Just as horrible to look at. Next one's a complete mess. Just a bunch of orbs or mirrors shooting crap around the screen. I can't even begin to tell you what the hell's going on here. Now all of a sudden the game wants to be Star Fox. For some reason they throw in this third-person space shooter boss. Done exceptionally well, might I add. Just like the rest of the bosses so far. Have fun trying to dodge anything in this car in this blurry mess of a fight. Second boss fight is Jason. It's a little bit more interesting, I'll give it that. Fighting the bat while going up in an elevator. Spoiler, this is the best boss in the game probably. And that ain't saying much. And then we make it to the final boss of the game, Kaiser. Again, nothing but a train wreck to see here. Enjoy. Thanks for watching this countdown. If you want to see the game from number 1 spot, click up here in the top right. If you want to see all the games in this series, click on a playlist down here in the bottom right. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.